Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, cha, bonjour, namaste, jumbo. Welcome. My name is Jedley, and this is Reading with Your Kids. We are beaming out to you from Reedville, the loveliest little neighborhood in all of Boston. And we are so absolutely delighted that you're joining us. At Reading with Your Kids, our mission is simple but powerful: to bring families together through the shared magic of books and stories. In every episode, we sit down with fascinating folks who are creating books that open hearts and spark imaginations. Want to help us grow this mission? Please tell all of your friends, your kids' teachers, your family, even the crossing guard, that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network. And they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, Good Pods, Podcast Addict. Anywhere you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. We have two wonderful guests for you today. First up, Abby Hanlon is here to celebrate Dory Fantasmagory number 7, Center of the Universe. Later in the show, Allison Intrieri will be here to celebrate Thatcher Hates the Bath. Before we invite our guests into the studio, I want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Once Upon a Dance. OnceUponADance.com. That's the place to go if you're looking for a magical way to get kids moving. Once Upon a Dance brings stories to life with interactive tales that are perfect for classrooms, story time, or family fun. Spark joy, build confidence, and dance into imagination. Do yourself and your family a favor and visit OnceUponADance.com or find Once Upon a Dance books at your favorite online bookstore. Hey families, would you like to share a miracle with your kids? At the Wolf Conservation Center, hope was fading. The endangered Mexican wolves dreamed of a pup, but none had come. Until one tiny miracle changed everything. Meet Trumpet, a real-life wolf pup whose incredible birth brought joy, hope, and a lesson in conservation. Trumpet the Miracle Wolf, written by Leocadia George, is a heartwarming true story that will inspire your whole family. Teach your kids the power of hope, love, and protecting endangered species. Get your copy today and join the wild adventure. Joining us right now from Brooklyn and New York City, where all the cool kids live. Our guest is here today to celebrate her wonderful chapter book series. Book number 7 is coming out. It's Dory Fantasmagory number 7, Center of the Universe. Please welcome to the show, Abby Hanlon. Abby, how are you?
Hi, Jed. I'm great. Thank you so much. It's really nice to be here and see you today.
Really great to see you. And Abby and I were just like inches apart a week ago, and we didn't see each other. We were at the Chappaqua Children's Book Festival.
That's right.
Yeah. What an amazing event that was. I was so incredibly impressed.
It was my first time there. And yeah, there was over 160 authors there.
Yeah.
And I mean, felt like thousands of kids.
Mm-hmm.
I had breakfast, lunch, and dinner there. It was so long.
Yeah. And that's the thing, there were like you said, 160 authors there, but I didn't see many that weren't busy.
That's right.
It seemed like everybody was busy all the time.
Yep. I think the people, that come to the festival, they're really excited to meet authors and interact, and they want to talk to you about the books. And I had a lot of really nice interactions. I actually signed a lot of books that day that people brought, that were taped together, and very well loved books. And so that makes me happy to do that.
Talk, please, a little bit about that. I remember hearing somebody say that they love seeing their books all dirty and tattered and broken up. Why does that make you happy when you see that?
I mean, these were books, some of them were like, I couldn't even really figure out where to sign because like they didn't have covers anymore. And like the page that I sign on was gone. It was funny to see some of them like, just like the Sharpie, like sometimes like kids will just like color in some of the illustrations. But yeah, just, I feel like I love that the parents, I just, as a parent, there's so many steps to getting out the door and that, they remembered that we have these books and, we still care about these books and we're going to meet the author. And I think, I think that it just shows like the books still have so much value to the families. And so, yeah, it's fun. I love it because the kids already know the books and it's fun to talk to the kids, about the series and what books in the series they like best. And I love when I ask that question because I've found that whenever I ask that question, there's never one of the, like, out of the 6 books, they always choose, it's pretty evenly divided between the 6. Mm-hmm. So that makes me feel good because I'm always trying to make every book as good as the last book for them.
Yeah. One of the things that I thought about as I was walking around the different tents, trying to see people, and I know that there was, I remember before I went up there, I said, wow, there's so many authors who've been on the podcast. So far, I'm going to say hi to all of them. Yeah. And I think I was only able to say hi to maybe 6 or 7, just because there were so many people there. And it was fun because we're used to seeing sports stars mobbed for autographs, and we're used to seeing rock stars and movie stars. And It was really cool. It was really cool to see authors, kids authors, mobbed by their fans, and to know that there's still this love of story and of books and reading. And I'm hoping a lot of that love was started because parents sat down and read to their kids when they were babies.
I love that. Yep, the authors were the rock stars, definitely, and I agree. That's when the magic starts.
Yeah. So tell us, who is Dory Fantasmagory?
Okay, well, Dory is the youngest of 3 siblings. She's kind of like the silly, scruffy, energetic little sister, whose imagination can sometimes create chaos. But mostly she's just a regular kid who's learning really where she fits into the world. The character came from my own kids. So I have twins. I wrote the first book when they were 5 years old. And, my kids were like a lot of kids were like really serious players. Like they just played like it was their job. And I was home, like working on a picture book and, I was with them a lot and I was just kind of in the background. I never really played so much with them, but I was always listening to them play. And I was just kind of blown away by how real their games seemed to them and how their games kind of felt more real than whatever else was going on in our lives. And so this character just started to come to me in like these little bursts of a girl who's just so immersed in her game that there would be these like funny moments of her real world and her imaginary world kind of colliding in funny ways.
Awesome. Yeah. Kids, I remember, listening to my kids as they would play out in our backyard, and they had all little names. It was like our backyard became a little town. This was graveyard, and this was our thinking stoops. They would sit on these tree trunks, and they just turned the backyard into their little universe. And
wow,
I just love when parents are aware enough and listen enough so that they can see the kind of worlds that their kids are building.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you say the backyard because my kids were definitely like that too. About the character, this is like a kind of a bigger issue in the first book because the first book is happening in the summer. Uh-huh. She is very attached to her nightgown and she does not want to take it off. And I had that idea because that's how my kids were about their pajamas because they did not want to take their pajamas off because then they knew they were not in control anymore, because then we were going out into the world. And at home, like if they were in the little yard or in the house, they had built that world. You know what I mean? Like that was their, whatever game they were playing. And, not to say they didn't, one, go out in their pajamas, and two, play their games all over the streets in Brooklyn, but it just like, they really they would, they really held on to being home. And I think a lot of kids feel that way about home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think we want our kids to be able to go out and explore the world and interact with the world. But it's also nice to know that we've created a space where our kids feel safe and comfortable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, do your kids know that they were the inspiration for Dory?
Oh, yeah. They do. Yeah, because, I should say, to call them the inspiration that was just one part of their purpose. For me, really, they also have served through their entire childhood as editors for me, and art directors and models. I would have to I do the illustration, so I would have to sometimes when I was struggling with a drawing, take a photo of them doing whatever crazy thing I'm trying to draw and ask them to pose. But I read, so I should also say at times they were really even co-writers with me, because they were just such active participants in the story every step of the way. We really worked on the books together. But so, for us, the way we worked usually we all started this when they were 5, and now they're 18. So they're in college. So when they were little, what we would do, and actually I should say we did this even through high school, is I would write it on my own and then ask them, and then I would read it out loud to them. I don't think they've ever read it themselves. It's a read aloud. When they were, for so many years, it was play with Legos. I'm reading you 3 chapters, and then they would comment, and all of their comments, not all, but a lot of their comments went, into the final book. Their feedback was so critical. And, I never showed the book to anyone besides them and my editor and my husband. Between those, they really carried their weight, so it's very dependent on, their insights. And so I always read the books out loud to them. And so I think that, for me, these books are reading these books out loud is a big part of the experience of reading these books. But I also, as an author, as a writer, I read them out loud. I can't even tell you how many times to myself as I'm editing it. I have to read it out loud to edit it. I can't, it has, because that's how I imagine it going out in the world, and it has to read smoothly. I'm thinking about parents, and it's I'm also thinking about obviously reading with your kid is such a amazing bonding experience, but there are also those nights where you're reading to your kid, but you're reading the words, but you're not listening to the words because your mind is on something else. Those times. And so I also, when I reread the book, I'm reading it for that. Could someone read this on autopilot and kind of without too much effort, the inflection is would kind of land in the right place. So yeah. So, and so reading aloud is really important to me and important to these books and the making of the books. My kids were both dyslexic, so that was a little bit maybe part of it why I would never just hand them the book, because I would be you guys are going to miss dyslexic add words and omit words all the time in strange ways. And I just, that kind of, when your kids are dyslexic, you get to read aloud longer with them,
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to mention is I'm glad that you're emphasizing that Dory Fantasmagory, the series is meant to be read aloud. I remember when my daughter got to be in second grade and she started reading independently and reading the chapter books and whatnot. And I was really bummed out because I loved reading with my kids. And her second grade teacher came up to me one day. She goes, "You have to keep reading with her." And I said, "I do?"
Yeah.
She goes, "Yes, absolutely." And I go, "All right." This is great. And I kept on reading middle school, and I didn't read aloud to my daughter when she was in high school, but we co-read lots of books together. And so I love that when kids are old enough to read Dory Fantasmagory on their own, you are still encouraging them to read together.
Yeah, I think it's a really fun read aloud. Like that's what the feedback I get a lot from parents is just like just at the Chappaqua Book Festival, a couple parents told me like we alternate I alternate with my spouse nights of reading aloud, and whenever I missed like a chapter of Dory, I'm always like sad because I'm like, what happened? And the parents like it's fun. I also write the books to be fun for the parents. And so I do have parents who, like when the last book came out, when book 6 came out, my local bookstore told me that a couple parents came and whose kids had outgrown Dory or were like teenagers now, like mine, and the parents bought the book for themselves.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We should probably tell folks what book number 7, Center of the Universe, is all about, so
Okay.
our publicist doesn't get mad at us.
Okay. So it's called Center of the Universe. Dory is on her first soccer team with her best friends, Rosabelle and George. And she's so excited for the first day of practice. She's a little bit overconfident. And she just fully expects to be the best on her team. But she's in for a surprise when she meets another girl on her team, Valentina, who actually possesses the real skills to be the star of the team. And she has this incredibly magnetic personality that all the kids in the team are drawn to. And this, kind of leads Dory, throws her into a loop. And it's called Center of the Universe because the book is like, it's all about like her wanting to be the best and sort of like thinking that everything is about her, which most kids do. And this new character in her life is sort of, Valentina is kind of sort of chipping away, at Dory's kind of natural, childlike, sort of egocentric view of herself as the center of things. Yeah. But so I should say though, for listeners who don't know the series, because I guess I haven't said that every book is about a real problem that Dory is experiencing, like kind of like what I just talked about, the soccer team. So she has like a very like everyday 6-year-old life, like the highs and lows of just being a regular kid in school and navigating just universal problems. But because she has such an active imagination, she also has a whole set of imaginary characters who are characters in every book. And then she has a problem in the imaginary setting as well. And then the two worlds kind of like, get sort of like interwoven together. But so that's kind of like the setup for the books. But the heart of the books is really about imaginary play.
Yeah. I'm curious, as you were creating the imaginary characters, did these characters just kind of pop into your mind, or were you meticulous in planning them all out?
I actually sort of planned them out a little bit in the beginning because they're kind of like archetypes. Like there's like the villain. So she has, a lot of kids have imaginary friends, but Dory has an imaginary enemy named Mrs. Gobblecracker, who, actually is the invention of Dory's older siblings. So Dory's older siblings, Luke and Violet, they never want to play with Dory because they think she's a baby. And, it's sort of like a vicious cycle for her. The more she imagines, the more her siblings are repelled by her. And so they can come up with this character named Mrs. Gobblecracker and say, if you keep acting like a baby, Mrs. Gobblecracker is going to come and get you. So to answer how did I come up with Mrs. Gobblecracker, I don't really know at this point. So she's in every book. Dory's always battling her. And then, so I have the villain. And then, so like to balance the villain, I have the helper character. Mm-hmm. So she has this fairy godmother who's actually a man. His name is Mr. Nuggy, and he looks like a little gnome. And so she always calls him, she can call him from a banana when she has an emergency, and he comes. So that's like her whole game that she plays. And then she has a best friend named Mary, who's a monster who's sort of like the counterpoint to her siblings, where like her siblings think that she's so annoying, and then Mary thinks that she's so like the greatest. So those are like kind of the three main imaginary characters.
Uh-huh.
And then every book there's kind of a new character, but usually the new characters are real people.
Yeah. All right. It sounds like it must have been incredibly fun for you to be playing with these characters.
Yeah, it's fun. Like, it's fun in the beginning. The very beginning of the writing process is fun. Just like when it first starts, coming to me in just like these little pieces. But yeah, it's hard. It's really hard because now I have a lot of characters, and every book has to, like I was saying before, every book has to, or maybe I said this before we recorded, every book has to be, oh no, I don't know when I said it, but every book has to be, as good as the last one. So it's like, there's a high bar. Mm-hmm. So I do have fun, but it's also a little bit stressful just because, I have all these readers and I don't want to disappoint them. They love the book so much, and I just want them to laugh, and treasure the next book. So, the illustrations, there's about 150 illustrations in every book. I also, we talked a lot about how I write the books as a read aloud, but I was a first grade teacher before I became an author. And so I really also very much thought about a new reader trying to get through this book. And so that's why I made sure to, I break up the text with tons of illustrations and speech bubbles, and I make sure that I think that humor is just such a big motivator for kids. And so I just try to make sure that I put, something funny on almost every spread. I'm definitely like trying to think of everything I can do to just help a kid get through the book. Mm-hmm. And that is what I like really hear the most from parents, is that this is the first book that my kid read independently.
That must feel incredibly gratifying to hear.
I mean, that's what I'm trying to do. So I mostly just have my head down and I'm just trying to come up with a next story. But, that's definitely what I'm trying to do, is just give a kid a book that they can read and feel really good about reading by themselves and feel really proud.
Now, a lot of authors who come on with very successful series, they envision, this is going to be a trilogy. There's going to be 4 books in the series. There are 7 books in the Dory Fantasmagory series. Is this something that you're just going to keep cranking them out as long as the stories keep coming to your mind?
I think I'm going to do a few more. Yeah. I mean, I never thought that I would be able to do this many books. I really just conceived of it as like 2 to 3 books. But I've been getting, I get a lot of letters from kids, and like they want more. And I just feel like I did take a little break between 5 and 6, and I illustrated a picture book and homeschooled my kids a little bit during the pandemic. And then I just felt like I kind of just ended up coming back to it because I just felt like this was my contribution. Like, this is what kids want. So I'm going to give it to them.
Right. I love it. And one of the things that I just wanted to mention and have you expand upon, before we started recording, I think I referred to you as a fine artist or illustrator or something like that. And you said, oh, no. All I do is draw a couple of pictures. I am not an artist. Don't become. Why you've created these great chapter books with these great illustrations, and I know the illustrations captivate kids' attention just as much as your words. But you don't give yourself the credit for being the talented artist that you are.
I think. Well, I definitely came to this late, to drawing late. When I had the idea to make books, I was 28 years old and I hadn't drawn since I was a kid, and I really could just draw stick figures. And I've created these characters, from stick figures, and I think they work really well for the books. They're just these little black and white illustrations, and they're something that I was able to kind of achieve early on, even when my drawings were even more awkward, is that like I can somehow capture the expression. Mm-hmm. And I feel that writing, there's something about capturing the expression to me that just feels like an extension of the words. Mm-hmm. And that I'm just kind of writing with pictures. Like, mm-hmm. I can't draw if there's no story. I don't have that motivation or desire. I feel like I'm not a visual person in the sense that I don't really see the world. Like, I'm thinking, I'm definitely much more of a writer. So yeah, that's a challenge for me. Definitely. It's always a challenge, the illustrations, because I know that kids are sitting there, like, kids look at illustrations so carefully. Yeah. And they notice, like, when something is inconsistent or just doesn't feel right. And so, yeah, I do spend a lot, like, my illustrations are simple, but they actually take me a lot of time. Yeah.
You must be a better artist than you give yourself credit. Because you just said to us you illustrated somebody else's picture book.
That was weird. Yeah, that was really weird.
I love it. Have you already started thinking about book number 8 in the series?
A little bit. Yeah, just a little. Like, I'm having those, like, just brief little moments of, there's going to be another, like, this story is going to happen. I think it's going to be centered around one of Dory's friends named George.
Okay.
I hope, but.
Well, we'll see. In the meantime, where should everybody go to find out more about Dory Fantasmagory, book number 7, Center of the Universe, and all of the books in the series?
AbbyHanlon.com.
Awesome. We've had a really wonderful time speaking to the author and the reluctant illustrator of the Dory Fantasmagory series, book number Center of the Universe. Our guest has been Abby Hanlon. Abby, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you so much, Jed. This is really fun. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'll let you know that this episode of Reading with Your Kids is also brought to you by We're Going on a Space Adventure, written by Marie Nichols. This is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. Blasting off and speeding through space, Graham cheers to the moon and beyond. But Bracken quickly learns that Graham has a fear of flying, and that he must manage control of the spaceship. On the moon, they narrowly escape a hideous monster as a crater explodes, and on Mars, they need to outrun Martian creatures or risk becoming their dinner. Hoping to find a friendlier planet, they decide to try Jupiter. Then clank, 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 something is attacking the spaceship. You and your kids are going to love this book. It's fun. It's exciting. It celebrates intergenerational friendships, and we love those. We're Going on a Space Adventure by Marie Nichols. It is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read.
Hi, I'm Ashley, a first-time author who loves turning real animals into big adventures for our littles.
And I'm Michael, a scientist, international educator, and textbook author. Ashley and I have teamed up to bring the wildlife Louise right into your hands.
Kids will meet real animals like jaguars and tapirs and learn about the struggles they face in the wild. With artwork by local student illustrators, these animals truly come to life for your kids.
And for teachers, we built K-5 toolkits to make it easy to integrate these books into the classroom. all with age-appropriate activities that connect literacy, science, and wildlife conservation.
You can learn more at ashleymosley.com or inspiredadventures.com. Let's keep the adventure going.
Are you looking for a creative way to bond with your kids? Let me tell you all about Drawing with Your Kids, the ultimate destination for artistic adventures. Join us as we dive into the wonderful world of children's books with renowned illustrators guiding you step by step. From beloved characters to whimsical scenes, unleash your imagination and create cherished memories together. Whether you're a seasoned artist or just picking up a pencil, there's something for everyone at Drawing with Your Kids. Please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com, and click on the Drawing with Your Kids link at the top of the page and let the creativity flow. Drawing with Your Kids, where every stroke brings stories to life. Joining us right now from Los Angeles in the beautiful state of California, she's here to celebrate her debut children's picture book. It's called Thatcher Hates the Bath. Please welcome to the show, Allison Intrieri. Allison, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Delighted to have you on. Boy, I don't remember when I was a baby, but I remember when I was a middle schooler and a teenager in high school. I loved the bath. I would just go. That would be my place to get away from everybody.
That's great. I think, if I think back to my experiences with the bath, I remember good ones once I got in, but I also remember sometimes turning the bath water on, but not actually getting in and just sort of splashing. And my parents always knew that I was not taking a bath. So,
of course, right now I'm almost 100 years old, so we don't even have a bath anymore. We get those walk-in with the things and all. Yeah, so yeah. I'm safe. Tell us all about Thatcher. Why does he hate the bath so much?
So I became a mom in 2021. I now have a 4-year-old. I'm a boy mom. And one of the things that he hated was the bath. And it was at a time when he was younger and we were struggling with a lot of things. It wasn't just the bath. He's a very picky eater. He was delayed a little in his speech. And so I think when we got to bath time and he would just scream bloody murder and nothing I did worked to try to calm him down, I really felt a lot as a parent like I was failing. Like, what am I doing that I'm not able to help him, enjoy the bath more or at least, hate it less. And I reached out to a lot of people for advice, pediatricians, friends, everything. And I would go and I would try everything, every piece of advice that I got. And some of it was either stuff I already tried or it was impractical, maybe a little bit absurd and not to the degree in this book. But I realized that he just wasn't going to like the bath and we were both going to suffer if I didn't get over that and just quickly bathe him. So what I ended up doing was I ended up giving him sponge baths and using very little water. We did it in the sink. And I just sort of waited like a while and then finally, revisited it. And when I revisited it, he wasn't, as resistant to it and he liked it a little bit more. And so I kind of wanted to poke fun at that, like what it's like as a parent when your child's struggling with something. I think this book, what I hope with this book, there is a universal message here because we all suffer bath times, meltdowns, whether it's the bath, it's food, it's, them throwing a tantrum in the middle of the store and people are always going to give you advice on how to fix it. And sometimes that just makes you feel worse when you put that advice into action and it doesn't work. And so I wanted to find a fun way to poke fun at that and also that would engage kids and they would see themselves hopefully in the book as much as parents see themselves, but also kind of give a message that sometimes nothing works and the only thing that you can do is wait it out and eventually they grow a little bit and time passes and they end up liking it. They may never love it. Kids tend to, my son takes showers and he likes showers, doesn't really like baths. So that was sort of the impetus for the book.
Yeah. That is one of the things that I remember vividly from being a parent is you get a lot of unsolicited advice from people who you don't know and people who probably don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's true. And I think a lot of times, we're the ones raising our kids and we know them and in the beginning you don't know as well. So you're filled with a lot more doubt. And as you mature as a parent, as much as your child matures as a kid, you trust your instincts more. And I think that's another message in this book. And I don't think it speaks just to parents. I think it speaks to children as well, right? Like we don't just pick up a bat and immediately know how to hit a ball. Like sometimes our friends are a lot better at sports than we are, or school comes easier to a child and it doesn't come easy to another child. So I think that the message, is really kind of like, let's all give ourselves a break a little bit. Let's not be so hard on ourselves. For me, the message in the book is not another judgment on a parent saying like, you need to be more patient. It's not so much a book about patience with the child as it is patience with yourself.
It sounds from the description, from what you're saying, it almost sounds like it's a book that kids are going to love, but a book that adults are going to love just as much because it's like, oh, got a real message for me in here.
Yeah, yeah. And I've had a lot of parents since the book came out write me and say that and say, this is such a good message in here that it really kind of it really hits what it's like to be a parent when you're just it feels like the house is on fire. And because a lot of times when kids are that young, they're just screaming their heads off, and it's very hard to kind of talk to them or get through to them, and then that can be really challenging, and you can feel like your battery that was charged is now on empty. So I've gotten a lot of parents who have found the book to be incredibly relatable, and they really responded to the message.
Yeah. So this is your debut children's picture book. What was it that motivated and inspired you to decide in the middle of being incredibly busy raising a child that, no, it's time for me to become an author?
Well, I'm a TV writer by trade, and I've been working in the entertainment business for, over 2 decades. I write a lot of dark procedural dramas, but I've always had a sense of humor, and I've always tried to find the funny in everyday life. So, and even in dark procedurals, I was always looking for the lighter moments because they exist even in the darkest times. And I think that on top of being a mom and having this new, these stories that are being a mom opens me up to a whole different world of stories. And there's so much humor in being a parent as there is in raising a child, as there is, stress, at times and difficult times. And so I think for me, like we just had a writer's strike, and even though it's been like a little over, I think it's going on 3 years now, the industry has really changed. And so I had some time to work on, my own projects, and I just saw a fun story here. And so I just said, okay, I'm going to write a children's book.
Awesome. I saw from your notes, I think it was one of the TV shows you wrote for was SVU.
Yes. Law and Order SVU.
You can't find any humor in SVU.
I know. I was asked what it was like to kind of go from a dark show to a light show recently. A light children's book. And I said, well, I'm happy that everybody's alive in this story. Which, you know, I am. It's funny. That show is, I think it's in its 27th season now. I wrote for it. I was on it for 6 years on and off. And like I said, even with the darkest stories, when you're laying in red herrings and things like that, you're always trying to find a way to bring in a little bit of humor, because while the subject matter is dark, we are also trying to, you know, entertain. So
I'm just curious, we'll get right back to Thatcher, but did you spend a lot of time researching for that series, talking with police officers and investigators and learning how they use dark humor to help themselves get through those tragic crimes that they had to investigate?
Yes. We spent, I would say, like, maybe not so much that, but we did spend a lot of time talking to investigators, talking we talked to the prosecutor for SVU, and we got a lot of information about the world, but also, you know, they would tell us stories sometimes just about when you bring somebody in and how they didn't do anything wrong. They're just talking to them because they're trying to get information on the case. And a lot of times the people that acted the most anxious and the most, you know, and would offer all kinds of information that had nothing to do with the case were the people that weren't, that weren't, you know, they were just there to be interviewed. They weren't under investigation. And so it kind of, you know, I found to be humorous, but also, you know, I think too, when they would talk to somebody again, who was really someone who was being interviewed, not investigated, they a lot of times would share things with you that they did that they thought maybe they were going to be in trouble for, or they were in trouble for. And it was like, yeah, nobody cares that you took the ink toner from your job. That's not why we're here to talk to you. So just forget about that right now. And let's get back to the questions that we are here to talk to you about. So, you know, they gotta, I think that, you know, I think they talked a lot about not taking it home. You know, they just didn't, when they went home, they just didn't talk about it. So I think that was one way that they kind of were able to distance themselves from the cases. But, you know, they also had a lot of, you know, there's a lot of characters that you meet on the street when you're trying to find out, like, who might have, you know, killed this person or might have wanted them dead. So,
yeah, boy, what an incredible series. And are you thinking right now that Thatcher may turn into an incredible series?
I mean, that would be amazing. Like Llama Llama Red Pajamas, a series now, and, you know, an animated film. Yeah, no, I do think there's more stories with Thatcher. I mean, there's more stories with my son, and of course they're, you know, percolating around in my head. This was a huge undertaking, this book. So I'm sort of kind of at the moment focused on getting as much, you know, eyeballs on this book, and then sort of going from there. But yeah, no, I think that would be great.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the biggest, challenge for you kind of turning off that TV series, heavy crime series mind to become the writer of Thatcher?
I think one of the biggest challenges I had with this book wasn't as much the tone, because when I first moved out here, I wanted to write half hours. I had spec scripts for Friends and Scrubs, but, you know, I didn't know anybody in the entertainment business. So you kind of really, like, you make a connection, and then that leads to a drama, and then it leads to another drama. And, but for me, where I kind of struggled in the early days of this book and this idea was, you know, in television, we have 55 pages to tell a story. And in a children's book, you have to have it under 500 words. So that really, I mean, you really have to be ruthless with your edits. And you also, you know, one of the things I learned is where the text maybe doesn't tell the stories, the illustrations will. So I had to kind of think that way as I was going through it and rewriting it. Like, what can I not include here and rely on the illustration for? And then, because I self-published this book under my imprint, Roaring Potato Press, I had to learn a lot about publishing as a whole and constructing a book as a whole. I was lucky enough that I had an editor friend who told me, like, you got to get a book designer. Like, that's maybe one of the most important things. And I kind of had thought, like, no, the illustrations are the most important. And they are important when someone's picking up your book and looking at it, but obviously it has to look like a children's book. So I made some mistakes there early on, and they cost me a little bit of money, but they also cost me time, which to me was kind of the more important of the two. But once I found a really good book designer, she actually helped me find my illustrator. And then from there, you know, we kind of hit the ground running. And then also, even though my illustrator was amazing and he could draw anything I asked him to draw, when I told him how I saw this book with the kind of being the mounting chaos of the bath, he drew me one illustration and it was exactly what was in my head. And so I was like, okay, I'm in good hands. But then I still, you know, every time he sent me the new sketches, I still had to go through it and kind of make sure that when you looked at the illustrations, that the narrative was being carried out through each illustration. And that was something that I kind of learned on the spot. But then once I figured it out, it was fun to kind of say, like, okay, you know, let's do this for this illustration. Let's add this in here so that, you know, as the audience is reading the book, they understand when you get to the counting part that the police officers and the fire trucks, it's not just about 6 fire trucks and 5 police officers. It's the narrative is they're headed in the direction of Thatcher's house. So that was really, that was probably became one of the funnest parts of the book. But I definitely felt by the end, I was like, oh man, I've looked at this book so many times. I don't know if I can look at it ever again. I really don't know.
I had a similar experience way, way back in 1989 when we were doing analog video editing. I created a disabilities awareness video. Most of the video was shot 3 cameras. It was a live kind of event, so there was very little editing of that needed. We just had some kind of documentary things we had to put in. But there was one section of the video it was a minute and a half, and it took us a week to edit it, and there was a song in it, and of course every time you kind of had to hear the song, and when they played it back, it was like, and I was done with video at that point in my life. I'm like, yeah, I'm never want to do this again.
Yeah. It's whenever you get into something new, you realize that, and this is with television too. When you do your first script, like I had worked on SVU for 2 years before they staffed me, and I had seen the show. I knew what they wanted. I had read a million scripts. I'd watched a million episodes, and I started getting all these calls once I handed in my script from production, and they were asking me, like, what do you want for this and what do you want for that? And I remember thinking, why are you asking me? Like, ask a producer, you know. But you know, you quickly learn, okay, like this is I'm in a new world, and you know, it's sometimes you stick with it and sometimes you're like, I'm out. I don't need to do this again. So
well, where is it that with you with Thatcher in your book imprint, now that you've become the CEO of your book in your small business, are you looking to do a series of Thatcher books? Are you looking to bring in other authors and perhaps publish other authors?
I think right now my focus would be probably first seeing how this book does and then kind of going from there and maybe doing a couple more Thatcher books. During the same time that I wrote this, I wrote a grief book for kids, but from the perspective of the child. Mm-hmm. And kind of not so much what you wish your parents knew about how you're feeling and how you're interpreting this loss. And hopefully then, when parents read this book with their child, and I don't think it's specific to a child who lost somebody, but I know grief books can be a challenge to get, off the shelves or even on the shelves. But then I think it opens up a conversation between the child and the parent as opposed to the parent kind of telling the child how they feel and more asking the right questions so that the child can feel comfortable telling you how they feel. So that's a passion project for me. I'd really like to also do that. So I think that's kind of where my head is at with that right now. And then obviously I've got all the stuff I'm doing for television too.
Yeah. I can almost see a fun series of picture books that kind of spoof SVU and you have a little baby detective stay local.
Definitely. 100%. I think that, Instagram has, I'm not sure if I'm making this up or if it seems like a good idea, but I am sure they have those videos with the little kid and they have iced tea. Now that we have AI, AI can kind of do anything. They do the Friends as stars as babies. And so that's definitely a possibility for sure.
Cool. Well, we should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Thatcher Hates the Bath and find out more about you.
So the book is available on Ingram Spark, which is where all the librarians and bookstores order from. It's also available online on Amazon in paperback and hardback. You can order it on Barnes & Noble as well in paperback and hardback. And then if you want to reach me, you can go to my website, which is allisonintrieri.com, and you can grab a book there too. But you can also email me and ask me any questions.
Awesome. We've had a great time speaking to the author of Thatcher Hates the Bath. It's the debut picture book from our guest, Allison Intrieri. Hey, Allison, thanks for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Reading with Your Kids, where real magic happens every time a child opens a book with someone they love. Please connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, @readingwithyourkids on Instagram, and @JedleyMagic on X. Our YouTube channel, youtube.com/readingwithyourkids. If you had a good time with us today, share this episode with your friends. Leave us a 5-star review. It helps us reach more magical families like yours. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a story. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, Abby Hanlon. Please be sure to check out Dory Fantasmagory #7. And Allison Intrieri. Please be sure to check out Thatcher Hates the Bath. I want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support and love she gives me. Most of all, we want to thank you. Please remember to keep dreaming, keep reading, and keep making the world a better place, one page at a time. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.
In a quiet New York valley, a miracle squeak was heard. Trumpet's birth was a miracle, no more hope deferred. Born to Rosa and Diego, 8 days before they found her. The pup of hope and wonder made every heart grow fonder. Trumpet, miracle, wolf pup, your story rings so true. smells and sounds so grand. Curious eyes, brave and bright, bold steps in a wonderland. Then the day came, heart full and shy. Trumpet left her nest, met a maiden, moonlit snow, found love and felt blessed. Trumpet, miracle, wolf pup, your story rings so true. From your tiny welcome to finding love, then motherhood anew. Oh, trumpet, with your spirit wild and free, you teach us about family and the wild's harmony. Now tiny paws are by your side, your voice a lullaby. Trumpet becomes a mother under the autumn sky.